time will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
Woke up this morning without a warning. The words were still ringing in my head. It came, it seemed within my dream, a gentle voice, and this is what it said. Stop now, you got to stop and listen to what I say. Stop and feel that you've been missing.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom, Ramon, LFE, and Greg tonight. We are recording this on April 7th of 2015. And one thing I want to touch on before we go off into little Ramon's corner in the news is last weekend we had that full moon that everybody across the planet was calling the blood moon. Well, I got news for you folks. That was not a blood moon. That's just nothing. That's just nothing but bad propaganda that makes people think in a completely wrong way. The origin of the blood moon is it goes back into the early, I don't even remember or know how long ago this started, but it had to do with harvest time and the end of the summer or the end of the summer going into fall, and it was the time when it was the full moon at the solstice the equinox that denoted the time when people started to have to hunt for their food. The abundance and the abundance of nature and the berries picking right off the vine and fruit falling off the trees and all of that stuff was all done, and winter was beginning to set in, and so that full moon denoted the time when people had to hunt to survive. So hence the blood moon, because blood had to be spilled. So you guys got it all wrong, and I really, really think that it is a great disservice to our consciousness to call moons that are not in that time frame the blood moon, because it definitely sends a wrong message, at least the way I'm seeing it. Anyways, okay, well, I'm off the soapbox.
Well, especially with the whole idea that that's the marking for the ending of time, the way Yeah. So, on a lighter note, I guess, Tom, you must have dropped something a long time ago, because people are discovering now. A 250 million year old stone with microchip discovered. Let me repeat that again. 250 million year old stone with microchip discovered. I guess. No, not Intel. Maybe Tomtel.
Oh, Tomtel. There you go.
Yeah, you know what's funny?
That must have been when we had a communist society on this planet.
Oh dear. Where it was discovered was in Russia, and if you remember, Tom, that news.
Oh, that's where they have communism, right?
No. That's where they found that nut and bolt as well that was like pretty old, that was in stone. So let me read a little bit here in the best of my English. Researchers have made some incredible discoveries in Labinsk, Russia. According to the scholars, this discovery marks the beginning of a completely new history, one that many ancient alien theorists have been talking about for years. The object that the researchers have found is believed to be some sort of ancient microchip, and according to researchers, this ancient microchip dates back millions of years. After countless tests, researchers have come to a conclusion that this antique piece was used as some sort of microchip in ancient times. So there you have it. I guess that.
Where'd this come from?
Let me repeat that again. Labin.
No. What news source?
Oh yeah, let's question that one. This is from Earth We Are One.
Okay.
Do that again, Tom?
But, I mean, we found some amazing things. They've dug some amazing things out of the ground, and nothing really surprises me anymore on what the kind of stuff that they've pulled out of there. I mean, just look at Richard Thompson and Michael Cremo's work.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my word! I mean, there's definitely a history here that isn't told.
Yeah, and probably, I guess, yeah, that it isn't told, but also that most people are not aware of, or downright just don't believe it.
Right.
Because it just slaps you in the face of everything you've been told. And that's kind of hard, you know. I guess as a society, and we'll be going into that, is not looking into your, I guess, the shadow work as a humanity, as an entire society, that we can't even look at our own history.
Right.
But here's another discovery, which this one really does not surprise me. These two college students came up with a way, and I only have the video, of turning off a fire only using sound. And it's like a very low frequency they use, and they have like this, it looks like a futuristic gun kind of thing, like a big cone base kind of thing, and they turn it on the fire, and it turns right off. It's like a really low frequency, which is really cool. So
putting fire out with sound.
Yeah, which does not surprise me at all.
No.
Basically, because they found the right frequency, they're able to push all the oxygen out of the immediate area, and that turns off the fire.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, so these guys are on to something. But it seems like we can do so much when it comes to sound. There's so many, Raymond Wright's work and countless others.
Right, right.
Yeah. Something Jason Verbelli talks about a lot too. And the last thing I want to do before we get into our guests, excuse me, is I just want to make a quick announcement that I will be publishing a kids book at the end of this month. So I'm shooting for April 22nd because of the 422.
Oh yeah.
And that's a 8-day, right, Tom? Is that
right.
correct?
It is.
So I chose that date for that reason, unless Tom tells me a better day.
I'd actually have to look at the astrology for that day to see if that's a good day for it. But
yeah,
we can do that. We'll definitely do that, Ramon.
After the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Tom, who do we have?
Nick Seneca Jankel is the 21st century shaman who has helped over 50,000 individuals, hundreds of world-class organizations like Microsoft, Disney, and Nike, a number of national governments, and millions of TV viewers across the globe to switch on, unleash their creativity, and break through real challenges to thrive. He has a triple first-class degree from Cambridge University in medicine and philosophy and a successful career in advertising and tech entrepreneurship behind him. He is partner at Creative Management Consultancy, which is WeCreateWorldwide.com, and co-founder of wisdom and well-being company RipenReady.com. His main website is nickjankel.com, and all those links you can find on the info tab of this show page. Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Nick. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. Great to be here.
Oh, so, Switch On. I just love the title of the book. That is just, when I saw the title of the book, I was like, oh, well, somebody actually finally said what we're doing. And it is definitely a switching on process that humanity's going through right now. But before we jump into your book, I'd like to get a little bit of background on you, Nick. How'd you get into the philosophical and mystical, spiritual / whatever side of life?
So, I mean, I got a number of sort of signposts over time. It took me a long time to decode the signposts. I guess early on, I remember sitting in traditional religious service when I was maybe 13, 14. And at the back of the prayer book, there were lots of sort of quotes and proverbs from what I now know would be more mystical thinkers. And they were way more compelling to me than the sort of Abrahamic, can I say diatribe that was coming down from the pulpit. And so that was a sort of early look. There was something there that was different and more interesting than religion per se. But I then dallied off into quite a hardcore atheist period of my life. I certainly realized that religion itself just did not speak to me, and there was no revelation for me, and angry gods made no sense.
Right.
And I was very clear about that. And so I spent probably at least 5 years being what I would call, I mean, I could probably almost call myself an atheist still in some ways. But I mean, I'm an atheist who, in my first year at Cambridge, got a prize for medicine and bought an illustrated Kabbalah with the prize. So I was obviously still, looking back, I was still obviously intrigued by this other way of knowing. And I had a few dalliances with psychedelics, which certainly showed me some things. And I remember actually being in Mexico years ago, 20 years ago, and this guy was sitting there, and he just gave me a piece of paper, and it said, El Mago, which is the magician. And he said, you. And he gave it to me, and I was like, okay, not sure what to do with that. Sort of packed it away in my backpack of memories. And it wasn't until 11 years ago, when I had a full burnout, post-entrepreneurial burnout, that I thought, I finally went, okay, I've got to get into this side of things. I've got to go deep and long and find out why I keep having these ups and downs and all this drama. And that's when I became fully committed and fully into that realization as the primary realization that an individual has to go through before they can be really of much contribution to the world.
So, something that I found, at least on my path, is that there's something that a society is truly missing right now that used to be deeply embedded within all cultures, is that rite of passage into manhood for men in particular.
Yeah.
What do you see anything along those lines in the world today?
You mean a lost rite of passage, or a rite of passage that's happening? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. I suppose there's still. Within our society, there are different types of rites of passages that
self-made kind of.
But yeah, but I think I suppose in pertaining to our own inner and spiritual growth.
I mean, I guess one of the things that draws me, really galvanizes my entrepreneurial vision these days, is the fact that I didn't really have anyone giving me any sense of a rite of passage at all, or even a guidance that there was a passage. There was no passage. I was like,
right.
Where do I go from here? And the only way that seemed to be there was atheism, which didn't work for me, really, obviously. So, because it's only a partial truth, it's not a full truth. And so certainly part of what I'm doing with Ripe and Ready, which is a kind of wisdom and well-being and world change community, if you like, is long-term to give young people particularly a sense that there are passages here, that there are some traditions that you can be part of, that you can invent your own tradition, or you can be part of new traditions that are emerging as we speak, and that they are a viable, not just viable, they are like amazing journeys to go down. Because if people don't know, I think most people you have three options. I think you have I'll believe in nothing and be atheist and cynical and sort of that whole kind of scene. I'll believe in the religion of my parents or some other religion that I get. Or there's this kind of, maybe this thing called New Age, but I'm not really sure about it because it sounds a bit weird. And none of those three really work for me in their classic form. And so I had to sort of piece it together. And I think that is what's missing, is I would have loved it if my dad had said to me, or, uncle, whatever, dude, you're old enough now to know the truth of life and the fact that we're all one and everything's interconnected, and that your journey is to play a part in a great symphony of open-hearted, compassionate contribution to the world. And we're going to go and do this for 3 days, so you're ready for that. So you're symbolically kicked into that world. I'd have been like, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Take my nipples and tie them to a tree. But no one said anything. There was silence. So I did have rites of passage, but they weren't orchestrated. And I think that's what definitely missing, is that no one tells you there's a passage, let alone how to get through it.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of bad self-made. For example, a lot of teenagers now, one rite of passage would be the first time they have sex, or joining a gang kind of thing, or getting a tattoo. I think that's it seems, what is it of the psyche though? Because for most of us, no one ever told us there's a rite of passage kind of thing. That's not really part of our culture anymore, at least in Western society. So there has to be something deep down inside that all of us yearn at when we turn a certain age, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that built into the sort of blueprint, there is a rite of passage, but just no one facilitates it, so it takes a lot longer.
Right.
And so it's possible that one could describe my awakening, which took, let's say, 14 to 30, 16 years. That's a very long rite of passage. And, do we really need it to take that long? Does it need to be that full of suffering, quite as much suffering? How much more useful time could I have played in the tribe, in my village, if you like, if I'd have gone through it in 5 days or a year? But not 16.
Right. Oh, I agree 100%. And, I think that's one thing that so many of us out here that are being proactive with this material are trying to accomplish, is trying to, beat down some pathways for others, so that we can say, hey, take a look at this path, look at this doorway here. This is what I went through, and I managed to, accomplish quite a few things through going down this path. We're giving other people options that haven't been there before, in a world that is in a dire need for something outside of the dogmatic socio-religious structure that we happen to be existing in. So tell us a little bit about Switch On, Nick. What's the book Switch On all about?
Well, it's kind of like my basic contribution. It's like it's what I've learned, distilled, refined, focused, clarified. So, basically. And I guess, there are a number of things that I think are important to me about it. The first is, I kind of guess why I wanted to write the book I wish someone had given me when I was 15. That had up-to-date science, really the best of what we know about psychology and neuroscience and behavioral research, the best of what science can tell us from observation and repetition, brought together with some of the most important aspects of the wisdom traditions that really need to be taken and grappled with and enjoyed, free from all the other stuff, free from whether you're into yoga or not into yoga, whether you're into Qigong or Taoism, or it's like free from all the specifics. What is the stuff I need to know? How does it fit with the science? Does it fit with the science? Is there anything that doesn't fit? And then tell me how to make it work in my life. That was basically what I wrote. So it took an enormous long time because it wasn't a sort of straightforward. It's not a self-help book in any really way, shape, or form. But neither did I want it to be a difficult philosophy book. I didn't want to have. I mean, I've read and studied a lot of philosophy, and I could have written an academic philosophy book relatively easily, and made it sound really complicated and used lots of long words and referenced discourse analysis and ideologies that I've read and post structuralism, all that stuff. I didn't want to do that either because I don't like reading that stuff, let alone someone who's not even trained in philosophy. So I wanted to sort of, first of all, bring it all together, secondly, make it practical, and then finally demystify it so it's accessible. And then I had to also find a sort of name for it and what was going to be called, and that was a struggle. And then finally came onto this idea of being switched on, which once I landed on it, it was like, oh my God, absolutely. And now it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. It's sort of it's fractal. It keeps having another meaning that I can realize what it was all about. And so, for example, I don't particularly like the word conscious living or the word conscious in that respect. I think it's slightly confusing to do with consciousness or we're all conscious and are we unconscious? All that stuff. I find it confusing, and I also find it a little bit weird for people. They don't really like the word when I use it, and so. But when I say the word, "Do you want to be switched on?" People are like, "Yeah."
Right.
Same difference, same. It's the same thing, and it's very active. It's like. So with the publishers and I were talking about it at one point, and we were looking at, the kind of tune in, drop out type message. And for me, it's kind of the opposite. It's like switch on and get stuck in. There's a world out there demanding our activity, demanding our input. At the minimum, demanding that we don't mess it up any further, but really demanding that we get stuck in. And so the strapline for the book ended up being reconnect your heart, rewire your brain, remix your world. So really joining the bridge between personal transformation and social justice. Both things that I think are vital for the world, and they are, for me, the same thing. But it was trying to make that argument in the book, and then trying to get it, and then publishing it without it being trapped in a genre or a category, which is how the publishing industry likes to work. Is it spirituality book? Yes, but it's not limited to that. It's about social change and sustainability. So is it a social change book? No, it's about personal development. Is it? Oh no, it's got business in there. So it's kind of trying to write. I mean, I ended up calling it a handbook for human thriving. Ultimately, it's the best of everything I've ever learned, really. So that's in a nutshell.
Did they say to you after you said that was, then it's a self-help book. Okay, here we go.
I guess also the other thing about it is I wanted it to be accessible. So I work with a lot of people from totally different categories, tribes, parts of the world. And so for me to keep that amazingly powerful place that I find myself in, where I can be in a government office one day and then in a festival tent the next, I needed to find something that could speak to everyone. And a lot of people don't like self-help books. And so I didn't want to make it, in that idiom. So that was more part of it, was trying to make it really accessible, but not dumbing it down. I don't like dumbed down content. So there you go.
Okay, so I really like what you say about switching on your heart, switching on your mind, and switching on your hands, and working with all three of those together.
Yes.
Could you maybe explain a little bit for the people who are listening what that is, and also some common blockages and how to work through those blockages to
Cool.
get switched on?
How long have we got?
As long as it takes.
That could be a long time.
A
60
few
minutes.
lifetimes.
Exactly, a few karmic shuffles. So I guess the first thing to say is really important. You can't really be of value in the world until you've got your own thinking straight.
Agree.
And you can't really get your own thinking straight until you're no longer trapped in fear, suffering, and disconnection.
Agree.
Which is what I would call a heart-based situation. It lives in the heart, that stuff. So one of the biggest lessons I learned is don't try and do. So the self-help industry tends to focus on the second one, the head, thinking right, thinking be rich, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's good, but it's kind of also dangerous because it gets people into this whole trap of making money and manifesting and all this stuff, which is still in the service of a pained or broken heart. So that does no good. It's not very helpful for anyone. Certainly not helpful for the planet we're on. So therefore, if you're going to be of use in the world and you want to then change your thinking and get your thinking straight, then you have to have thinking which is aligned with an open heart, a connected heart, a switched on heart, a heart that feels itself as one with the world, the planet, the species, the plants, your roomie who irritates you, whatever, all of us, all of it. So that's the key, and that's really where the spiritual bit comes in. It's all spiritual, obviously, but the bit that I sort of lay out in the book is whether you think it, whether you call it spiritual or not, you have to get your heart right with the universe before anything can really change in your life. Otherwise you will always return to suffering in some way, and you'll be trapped in just another layer of the wonderfully complex egoic shell that we all have. So therefore the heart is the way it starts, really. But at the same time, as we talked, about, the heart's not enough. It's no good sitting around going, I'm in love with everything, I am one, all good. Meanwhile, driving a 5-liter petrol guzzling car, kicking a bum in the street as you leave the yoga studio. That doesn't help either, So I spent a little time in LA, and I had this whole kind of thing around what I would call tight butt spirituality, where it's all about having a nice ass, and it's not really about giving your last dollar to someone whose life is suffering. It's kind of pseudo spirituality. It's not really real. So you need to connect the heart, head, and the hands. They all work together. There's no disconnection. They're all one thing, right? It's just a tool to understand us better. So I've been using heart, head, and hands in massive organizations with senior leaders and with 15-year-olds. It's extremely powerful, and I'm still, if you like, growing into that knowledge myself of what it's like to really get mastery over these three elements of human experience. Just to break it down, in every moment of life, our heart is in a certain state. And when I mean about heart, I mean our deep, visceral, emotional field. And you can feel the energy moving between your gut and your heart, or your heart and your solar plexus, or whatever. That's the heart level. At the same time, there's always some kind of thought or narrative. He's an idiot, I'm an idiot, the world's amazing, I'm amazing, whatever. And in every moment, there's a physical behavior going on. I'm either tight, or I'm loosened up, or I'm dancing, or I'm driving, whatever. So it's just about getting a sense of how do those three things work, what triggers what to happen, what's the order of sequence of making anything work, etc. And everyone's got a different flavor to that. And so the work I attempt to do is help people deepen their knowledge of those three elements. And I was a medical student, so I really believe in biology. I really feel transformation in our cells, and that's where it happens. It literally, as I'm speaking right now, I'm firing nerves, and as I feel fear, there's a nervous signature, there's a neural signature in that moment. So transformation, though it happens in a spiritual plane, if you like, it's biologically enmeshed. It is biology. And our biology is amazing. I mean, we can do some crazy stuff with this crazy body we have. Everybody has, right?
Yeah.
So that's just about really deepening our knowledge of it, and then learning how to almost literally, not quite literally, switching the heart on when it doesn't want to be switched on, when it's feeling like pushing people away and being angry or being afraid or whatever. Switching our mind on when it's loving, being hooking into a story that our grandparents gave us or we learnt about fear and pain and lack. And then switching on our behavior so that we actually get in action. And we don't just think how amazing it would be to have a world like X. We're actually up at 7 a.m. doing
Getting that.
Yeah, being part of that.
Yeah, definitely. So it almost sounds like, it does sound like to me, the first key is just letting go, and not sweeping your problems under the rug, but doing what you can do about them, and not worrying about them. Just I mean, we all got bills to pay, we all got things that we have to do, but we're gonna get there and we're gonna do them regardless. But to hold that stress inside you while you're working up to it serves no purpose.
Well,
so
exactly.
It's almost like letting. So what I'm hearing is, the big thing is just to let go of what these things are, with these different types of attachments or things that are sucking on you.
Well, that's one of the great lessons of all life, is to let go. There's a scene which I took it out of the book actually because it was getting a bit long-winded, but there's a scene in Finding Nemo, that Disney movie, where the two fish are in the whale, and there's the worrywart. The Nemo's dad is a total worrier, stressed out kind of character, so he's totally hooked into this narrative of fear. And the fish with him, who's the kind of forgetful, laid-back one, keeps saying, let go, let go. And he won't, he's holding on. And then she goes, no, really, you've got to let go because the whale's telling us to let go. Wonderful metaphor for the universe.
Right.
And then he falls, which is a horrible experience when we first start doing it. We can learn to enjoy it, but it can feel quite scary. Falls down, lost his hold, and then gets spurted out and finds his son, And that is a wonderful metaphor for the power of letting go. And for me, the book Switch On is really about saying every time you feel any physical, emotional, mental, cognitive sort of deflection from being at peace and at one and feeling in the zone, every time you feel a deflection of the force, if you like, it's an opportunity to let something go. Because there's something in your biology, there's something in your system, some kind of stress response which is locked in and it's not going away. And if you try and repress it and pretend it's not there, it will always carry on going. If you act it out, you just strengthen it. You just repeat again, and another neuron gets wired in. Another 10 million neurons get wired in. So the only other option you've got is to notice it and find some way to dissolve it and let it go. And I talk in the book about love being the solvent that dissolves away our stress. And certainly with people I work with, I try and actually give people the sense that as they connect their heart and feel some kind of love through their body, the love of the universe for you, I would say, for full mystical chat, as you feel the love of the universe because you are the universe, that solvent opens up your nervous system, melts away the old pathways, and gives you a canvas from which to create something new with. But if you don't do that work, there is no canvas. There's just old habits, old mental habits, old patterns. And you can't create anything genuinely new with it because you've already got something there. So the analogy is if you're going to remodel your house, you've got to take the old stuff out. You can't just build over the kitchen and build another kitchen on it. You've got to take the old kitchen out. And that's scary because for a few days you can't cook.
Right.
To force the metaphor. And that's the trick of all life is bridging that fear of the few days where you don't have the new thing in, You don't have the answer. You don't know what to do next. That's the key.
So what are some of the common blockages that you see people are constantly having to deal with in this world?
Oh, wow. I mean, the uber blockage of all blockages is what people often call separation consciousness, or the belief that we're single, separate, individual, atomized beings, which seems totally what is happening, right?
Right.
You wake up in the morning, and the minute you wake up, you hear this thing going, I want this, I want that, I don't want this. And like, wow, there's this I, it must be me. Oh, it's me, great. And then you see something else next to you, an alarm clock or a light or, if you're lucky, a lover. And you realize they're not you. That's not I, that's someone else. So literally, we just wake up and we're like, bang, I. And so that is the biggest block of all, is that I consciousness, the feeling that we're alone. Because with that, there is just insane amounts of fear. Because it's just, I mean, the universe is so big, and if we're alone and separate from it, how could we think anything other than, oh my God, we're nothing, I'm nobody, I'm on my own, I've got to deal with all this suffering myself. And so that is the number one block. Now, how that manifests ends up in all these tiny mundane things like, I don't really want to go out with this person anymore because I'm scared that if I commit to them, they're going to let me down, and then I'm going to have to deal with actually being let down, whereas if I break up with them now, I don't have to deal with being let down, so I'm going to just end it now, for example. And then another 100 things like that. Whether it's addiction to habits, or whether it's blockages at work, whether it's selfishness. I mean, that manifests in so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you can, whatever the flower, the root is almost invariably separation consciousness and the fear that comes with it. And you can, and that's a lot of the work I attempt to do, is help people follow the pain internally until they find the source of it and where it lives in their body. And then that's where you get the magic happening. When you actually sit with the pain, you connect your heart and you feel connected, but you also allow the pain to be there, so you don't hide it away anymore. It dissolves, and what's left instead of it is the truth that you always wanted, whatever flavor it is.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. I've seen that manifest itself in self-sabotage. I mean, like, really, because one thing is, if someone else sabotages you, you're like, oh, you're a mean person, you're a bad person, or
Yeah.
more honestly, you're a fucking asshole. But
Exactly.
when you do it, I see people do it to themselves. Like, I'll give you a quick story. This was like close to 20 years ago. I was dating someone who's an amazing dancer. Mm-hmm. And she always wanted to, come to Japan and dance and stuff like that. And I was always pushing her, to do more stuff. So in one part of her life, they were offering her a manager position at her job. She didn't want to take it because she wanted to dance and give more time to it. And then I was able to get her a deal where she was going to go on a tour, dancing and teaching class in Japan. But she didn't want to take it because out of fear that she wasn't good enough. Mind you, she was an amazing absolutely amazing dancer. So she shut herself off on both opportunities. That deal came and left really fast. So they replaced her really fast. And the people who offer her that deal never wanted to deal with her again.
Of course. You just told the story of everyone. Everyone's life is full of these moments. And so the reason why my book, I could have framed my book, Switch On. I could have said it's about spirituality, it's about healing, it's about, it covers a lot of ground, right? How to thrive is a big topic. But I went in on creativity, partly because that's my background in creative agencies and innovation and whatever. But partly because the result, the benefit of all this self-healing is not the healing, it's the ability to be able to take these moments and jump through the window. Leap through the window in those moments, because the window doesn't stay open, as you say, very long, and the windows are opening all the time, And if you look at it from a systems view and you sort of pull back on your perspective, so if you imagine that every time you get one of these opportunities, the road splits like a sliding doors, and imagine it's called a bifurcation in complexity theory. So the path bifurcates, and then again another bifurcation happens. So imagine if you do that like 20 times, and you pull back from the piece of paper how many bifurcations there are, and then you imagine where the top one is at the very top of the page compared to the bottom of the 20 different bifurcation points. That is the difference in level of our life, quality of life, depending on what we do in these moments of opportunity. And that's insane to look back. And there's actually a famous saying, I don't know who said it, but hell is meeting the person that you could have been.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
That's dark.
Yes.
That's painful, right?
Yeah.
And so to take these moments like your friend, she needs to be able to know how to process that pain quickly so she can go home one night, go, God, I'm freaking terrified of taking this opportunity, but that's not going to stop me. Okay, I'm going in, I'm going to spend 2 hours in my own body tonight, tell everyone not to call me, and I'm going to process it, fall asleep, and in the morning, boom, I'm calling up, I'm ready to go, let's take it, let's do it. And that's a different life, right? That life just changed. And I was just tired of having so many of those I didn't take on,
Right.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote I saw on Facebook, and it was I don't remember who it was by, but it said the cost of not following your heart is that you live with the regret for the rest of your life, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We are our greatest cock block, and that is we are our own greatest cock block. And so, I mean, when you put on self-sabotage spectacles, it's just everywhere. It's
right.
like if you took like a highlighter pen and you highlighted everywhere you see self-sabotage, it's like the whole page of life is colored in. And it's just so unnecessary. It's sad,
Yeah. What kind of suggestions do you have of keeping some kind of balance within these processes in the world that we live in? I mean, when our world is so packed full of negativity, the media is horrid. The advertising is horrid. Not just the overt stuff, but the subliminal and it's just ridiculous out there. I mean, what kind of suggestions do you throw out to help people keep a balance in this planet?
You mean to be positive, to be optimistic?
Right.
Well, it's interesting because optimism has to live within internally. You have to be able to generate it from within. And as an entrepreneur, I know how you have to keep generating it. Right? That's it. The difference between someone who does and doesn't make it as an entrepreneur is the people who keep generating optimism. It's just, that's it. That's just the deal, right? And it's the same with if you want to be a great actress or whatever. If you want to do anything of any value in the world, this is what I believe, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of perseverance. So you have to be able to generate that yourself because no one's going to do it for you. Like, if you're lucky, I've got an amazing wife. And in the moments where I'm usually, feeling like I can't do this anymore, I'm tired, I can't keep writing books and blah, 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 whatever my little narrative I'm spinning in that moment is, she often will say, dude, you're amazing, keep going, right? But it's not her job to do that. It's just an extra gift of love she gives me every now and again. The job is mine and mine alone. And that's why it comes back to our heart. If I'm constantly... It's not just even the heart. It's like if I am not right with the universe, if I have this sneaking suspicion the universe is out to get me, backed up by the fact that I've got this wonderful narrative of my life that says, well, my parents never did this for me, I never got this break, and this didn't happen. If that's my narrative, then my relationship to the universe is kind of like, you're not there for me, dude, you weren't helpful, I can't rely on you. And that is exhausting because you have to then generate it all yourself. If you get right with the universe, which is a lot of my work now gets really down to this very deep layer of what is your relationship to the universe right now? people can call that God or Christ consciousness or Krishna consciousness, whatever you call the big thing. What's your relationship to it? Do you see it as a supportive, loving friend, or as a kind of jilted lover? You know, what is it to you? Once you get yourself right with that, optimism flows through you, because there's something bigger than you always there. And I guess what's coming to heart right now as I speak is this amazing hack. I talk a lot about thrive hacks rather than life hacks, because life hacks seem to always be about productivity and getting more shit done, which I do not think is the reason for living. Thrive hacks are ways we can hack our biology to thrive. And one of the ones that I talk about in the book, which is, for me, possibly the biggest one I have, it's so big. It comes originally from the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian spiritual classic, but I'm actually writing a remix of it at the moment. So I've read 7 or 8 different translations, and I read Gandhi's one a couple of years ago, and it's Gandhi's notes on the Bhagavad Gita, which bizarrely I read yesterday. Someone has just given President Obama, which I thought was brilliant. Hope he reads it. It's actually quite hard to read. It's not, the text isn't easy. But what he talks about is, my interpretation is, the thing that allowed him to do what he did, which everyone likes to talk about and quote and blah, blah, Gandhi this, Gandhi that, right? The number one hack he had was, at any time that he was getting scared or exhausted or any of the things that happen when we're on the path of doing something awesome, is he gave it up and devoted the act of what he was doing from the universe back to the universe. This is my language, not Gandhi's. In other words, so before I came on the air today with you guys, I have a little thing where I say everything I do in this conversation is an act of love and service from one tiny part of the universe back to the great big universe. It's not about me. I'm here to serve. And so if it goes great, it goes great. If it doesn't go great, it doesn't go great. But I get out of the way of it. And that is the hack of hacks. I mean, to be able to give up your work, not to give it up as in stop doing it, but to be able to carry on being so committed to doing amazing things, but to not be attached and not think it's about you and not let it be an ego trip, and make it an act of love, an act of bhakti, devotion, is insane. Because then you don't even need optimism, because it's kind of like you are optimistic, because you are part of the universe's work of healing, of self-healing. So that for me is like if I could teach one thing to everyone in the world, it would be to feel connected to the universe, and then to dedicate all your actions to it.
And it's my I like this plug in and switch on.
Exactly.
I call it plugging in, getting plugged into the universe. I mean,
exactly.
It's an amazing experience to do it in and know that it's happening. I mean, I see it happen in everybody all the time. I mean, stuff comes out of people's mouths that they don't understand what they're saying. They're not aware of what they're saying. Mm-hmm. How those synchronistic conversations happen around people, especially when you're on the path, right? If you're communing with universe and then you're sitting in a coffee shop and somebody right next to you has some conversation that is extremely poignant for exactly what was going on inside your mind. You're going, oh wow, okay, thank you. I thanks for that reassurance or reaffirmation, it's amazing experience.
Absolutely. So 2 things on that. One is my take on Jung is, he said, the more you tap in, the more you switch on, the more you, as you said, the more you become aware of switching on, so you actually know that it's happening, rather than some people who are just accidental mystics. When you actually really know it's happening, and the gratitude you have in life just for the fact that you're part of this thing, you're like, oh my God, it's just so amazing. But the more you get switched on, the more you see all these so-called coincidences occurring. And then the more you know that you're on the right path, as in you are getting out the way of yourself, what the Taoists would call wu wei or wei wu wei. It's actionless action.
Right.
It's just action occurring through you. And so this is like a mini example. 2 days ago, I'm driving through Ojai in California, and we drive to the Krishnamurti Center just to check it out. I go to the Krishnamurti Center in the UK quite a lot. And if anyone doesn't know, Krishnamurti was a kind of no-guru guru who was picked up as being like the next sort of great guru in a tradition, and then he rejected it all and just did his own thing. Anyway, my wife gets out the car. She goes to go over and read this sort of notice board telling the calendar of what's going on in the Krishnamurti Center. I go to the orange grove, pick a couple of oranges, do apologize, JK, I give them to my son. I wander back up to my wife and I just say the words, "The truth is a pathless land," which is one of Krishnamurti's sentences which I love. And she says, "Fuck you, I've just read that sentence." Like it's like, not just like 10 seconds before, I had just, as you said that, I was reading it on this notice board. And that stuff is crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy. But yet not, because what else would we expect? If everything's connected, why wouldn't the connections become evident to us if we're looking?
Yeah, exactly. I used to work with kids, and I went to this counselor's training for 2 weeks up north of here. And one of the things that they were talking about was that, if you recognize these synchronicities in your life, well, they call them coincidences, or if you think that the TV or the radio is talking to you, or if you think that you might hear voices in your head, then you need to be on these certain type of medications, and you have these certain problems, and I've been having these experiences most of my life, but at that time I didn't have anybody really to talk to about it, so I just thought it was normal, basically. But they're telling me these things, and this class I'm going to, and they're talking about these different mental health issues and these different meds to put these kids on. I'm thinking, shit, I need to get me some of these meds, because I'm relating to everything you're talking about, these kids being crazy, and I'm thinking that I'm crazy. But I mean, everything does. When you're close to it, everything does line up. And I'll be thinking something, and then I'll hear it on the radio. Or I'll be thinking of a song and it'll play on the radio. Or I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and the TV will answer the question I just asked that person, But according to these mainstream people, I'm crazy.
Time for some Ritalin, man.
Yeah, time for some Ritalin.
And quite crazy as well.
Okay, then we're all crazy. Good.
I think we need lots of medication for the whole audience here.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it is quite it is intense. I use the word intense a lot to sort of take away a positive or negative from an experience. I mean, it is quite intense life. When you fully live it, there's a lot going on. And I found it a bit too much in my earlier years. And there were moments where I was just too overwhelmed by it, couldn't hold it down, couldn't take the enormity of it, couldn't celebrate it because I was still wounded inside and damaged and pain and suffering.
Right.
So the act of healing is important, to pull ourselves together and to root ourselves down. And that's why I think a lot of the mystical traditions don't really encourage you to study them until you're fully rooted in the world and have done your work with your ego and have been of service and have got ethics. Right? There's a lot of focus on ethics in the early stages of a tradition. Not because they believe that there's actually any ethical truth, but because if you haven't got an ethical path and then you get told the big truth, you can fly out, and that's when you start, having sex with all your students and all that sort of stuff. So you need to be able to hold it down, and then get the big truth. And then you're like, oh my Lord, that's big talk.
Yeah.
And holding it down is important.
Exactly. So Nick, we're about at the top of the hour here, and that flew by really quick. I love it when these excellent conversations happen and time goes into a different zone. So, where can people pick up your book at?
Well, I'm guessing Amazon for sure. I think it's pretty much in most bookstores. Obviously, decent bookstores, discerning bookstores. And if you want the ebook with a free meditation I recorded with the hang, a beautiful instrument. The hang is like a sort of sonic drum. You can go to ripeandready.com, and there's an ebook on there with the free download of a meditation if you want it.
Awesome. Are you out speaking or lecturing anywhere?
Yeah, I'm out a lot. I was at Yale last week, which was crazy fun. I'm speaking in various places. I'm going to be at Google doing some chat soon. So I'm out a lot. I've just started getting into, we're going to be running a 3-day switch-on workshop, both in London and then probably in LA later in the year. So if you go to my website, you can sign up to get some info on that. We're going deep into all this stuff. I'm doing it with my wife, who's a craniosacral therapist and actually dancer as well. Really a body person, so really getting into the body of it. And if you're in the UK this summer, we're going to be running our sort of rave meets transformation experience called Hardcore at a number of the best festivals in the UK. So you can sample some of that experience too.
Awesome. So we are going to take a short break, and we will be back shortly. And if you are out there listening on one of those other media formats, the iTunes, the YouTubes, the Vimos, wherever this happened to land, and you want to check out the second hour, pop on over to www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com, where you will find this show along with hundreds of others there. So anyways, we will see you in hour 2. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Namaste.
You've been missing along the way. Put aside your petty fight, serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one door, we're gone wrong. We all need love, and if the cure for one is the cure for us all, there's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. It came the same way the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. Cause don't you know, there's just one door in a world gone wrong. We all need loving, and if the cure for one is the cure for all, step right up and don't be shy. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. Pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick up the call. It's really all quite simple in the end. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into be shy. Got to look yourself right in the eye. There's a magic moment trying to meet you, an urgent message trying to reach you. The phone is ringing off the wall, so pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick up the call. You gotta pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick up the call. You gotta pick it up, pick it up, pick it up now, pick up the call.